nearly 15 lakh crores or $20 billion in distressed loans in India's banking system. Just 10 corporate groups took 1/3 of all corporate loans by India's banks between 2011 and 2014. These corporate groups account for 20% of all distressed loans today. Public sector banks have borne the brunt of these bad loans. The entire bad loan crisis has been painted as a nexus between government-owned banks and crony businessmen. As we all know, most banks, including public sector banks, rely quite heavily on credit rating and other analyst views before making lending decisions. So then the question arises, did these independent private sector credit rating agencies and equity analysts issue negative ratings for these corporates during the time they indulged in such heavy borrowing? To find out, I undertook a massive data study. I analyzed every single rating of each individual company belonging to these 10 corporate groups by every rating agency and equity analyst during the years 2011 and 2013. On an aggregate basis, none of these corporate groups were rated as high risk by any of these rating agencies in this time frame. Similarly, none of the equity analysts issued negative ratings on an aggregate basis to these corporate groups in this time frame. Armed with these strong ratings, these companies went on a borrowing binge. Their debt went from 3 lakh crores in 2010 to 7 lakh crores in 2014. Needless to say, their balance sheets came under stress in 2011. Their ability to meet interest payments were in doubt starting 2012. Yet, none of these credit rating agencies or equity analysts turned negative back then. Had these credit rating agencies and equity analysts not been so generous and glowing in their ratings of these corporates, would banks still have lent such enormous amounts to these corporates? When independent private sector reputed credit rating agencies and equity analysts are equally culpable of bad judgments, why is it that only the public sector banks are being held hostage to this loans crisis? We all know credit rating agencies and equity research departments are paid by the very corporates that they rate, directly or indirectly. This presents huge conflicts of interest. Why is this not being discussed along with governance of public sector banks? This is not to insinuate any bad intent on credit rating agencies or equity research analysts. This is merely to highlight the larger problem and point out that the causes of these bad loans crisis extends beyond public sector bank governance.